Rama, thank you. And we begin the hour in South Sudan, where people have emerged from hiding in makeshift shelters after a ceasefire silenced days of heavy fighting in the capital, Juba. Others are, however, still seeking shelter at United Nations protection sites. The United Nations says that more than 36,000 people have been seeking refuge at its head offices in Juba. The worldly body is calling for the protection of civilians fleeing the fighting. It follows reports that access to the UN compound was being blocked and that civilians were trapped in churches and schools without access to water or sanitation. The World Health Organization has agreed to send in trauma kits. Meanwhile, the United Nations Refugee Agency has urged neighbouring countries to keep their borders open to South Sudanese seeking asylum.
Most of the affected people are women and children. Access to those in need is limited by the ongoing fighting and insecurity.
We are also deeply worried at reports that UN compounds and protection of civilians sites have been directly caught in the fighting and apparently at times directly targeted.
Well, let's get more details now on what's happening on the ground. And I'm joined by CCTV's Patrick Oyet, who's in Juba. Patrick, there's a sense of calm. It is said to have returned to Juba at the moment. Can we say that the ceasefire announced on Monday is holding, or are there still fears of more violence that could erupt?
Yes, the situation, as you said, has been calm the whole day. The number of checkpoints have reduced. Juba International Airport was operational, even though commercial flights were not coming in. We have just spoken a short while ago to the President Kiir spokesperson, who has actually called on the people who are still stuck in various locations to return home. And he has said that both President Salva Kiir and his first Vice President Riek Machar are committed to peace. It should also be mentioned that, of course, more than 10,000 people are still stuck in churches. That is only in the eastern side of Juba town. More than 10,000 people are in the churches. And some of them are saying they are unable to go home because their homes have been destroyed. So the situation is still not as people expected. Like, people would just go home when the government says, yes, now the situation is calm, let us go back home, let everybody go back home. The situation is still very tense. People are still not sure whether the peace stop, or whether the ceasefire that has been declared is going to hold. So there's still a lot of fear. Even those who are hiding in their homes, they have not yet really come out. So people are still stuck. That is the situation on the ground now.
Well, Patrick, you have mentioned that both President Salva Kiir and the Vice President Riek Machar are committed to peace. But we also understand that officials from Vice President Riek Machar's side say they are quite willing to hold talks to end the current violence completely if the option is available. Do you think talks will actually work this time around, considering the number of times the two leaders have met to negotiate?
This is actually the question that is so difficult to answer now. The president's spokesperson has said both President Kiir and his first deputy, Riek Machar, are committed to peace. And as you said, there are reports that the office of the first vice president is saying he's willing to hold talks. But remember that last Friday when the clashes began at the presidential palace, they were actually talking. So many South Sudanese now are not actually sure. Many South Sudanese think there is dishonesty somewhere. If the two could be talking and then fighting would erupt, then they are not even sure whether any talks will actually yield any fruit. This is the situation, and it is very difficult to tell whether something positive will come.
Right, Patrick Oyet for us there in Juba.